What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today once again we're going to be going over a variety of different topics, some final news about preloading and timings for the actual DLC launching, some more info and updates coming in December and January and beyond, several new exotics, some other noteworthy items, and a bunch more. So once again, a big roundup video of everything surrounding and worth being aware of for Destiny 2. So in terms of some quick info about the DLC launching and preloads, downloads, updates, maintenance, all that kind of stuff, hopefully this should answer any of your questions. The DLC, of course, is going to go live on December the 5th at the new time of reset, so essentially the same time Iron Banner would normally go live. But just before that, on the 5th, there's going to be one final period of maintenance, and then at the conclusion of that is when the DLC is going to be set public. In terms of preloading, it's pretty late this time around, but you can start that at 8 AM Pacific on December 5th, so 4 PM here in the UK. They do give rough guidelines on the absolute maximum these things can be, which of course is very extreme. I don't think it's going to be that big, but these are some kind of rough outlines. And the final thing, of course, worth noting is the change of reset time, which is now going to be all the times you can see it on screen right now. This is the new reset, and it basically aligns when things would normally launch and events would go live in Destiny. So let's talk about some exotics, actually quite a lot of them that once you mention. As you may know, I've actually played the DLC early at Bungie, and I've seen these things, so I won't be speculating or guessing. I'm allowed to give you some light info on the things Bungie have already given out, but obviously not go into massive detail or spoil anything. So the first one I wanted to mention, I knew would definitely cause a big buzz around anyone who had played Destiny 1, and this of course is the Red Death hand cannon. This is what you're seeing is correct. This is a new exotic hand cannon, inspired off the Red Death, an exotic pulse rifle from Destiny 1 Vanilla. So this unique perk was, of course, after every kill, the reload would speed up and also regens your health, which was very, very helpful. It was definitely one of my most used weapons in Year 2, so I'm personally really excited to see it sort of returning, just reincarnated into a hand cannon. I do also like how they're introducing it as well. I've said a bunch of times how I'm not a fan of them just bringing back so many exotics from Destiny 1, but this I really like because it's the same as Red Death. We're getting a familiar weapon, but it's an entirely new weapon at the same time that's going to behave differently because it's obviously a hand cannon now. So I do hope they do more of this, unless they're just straight up exotics returning as they were, like Telesto, for example. It's just the same gun basically. But this really is a Red Death hand cannon in every sense of the word. When you see it up close, when you see the flavor text, some of the perks, but it also has some other unique perks that make it different, not just a straight up copy and paste of Red Death. So this is a really, really cool weapon. I wish I could go into more detail, but in a few days when the DLC launches, I can of course show you some gameplay of in action with my impressions and just general footage of it. So stay tuned on Tuesday when the Curse of Osiris comes out. I'll have a ton of videos and gameplay going up you definitely don't want to miss. So next up is this Titan's helmet, which is actually also another exotic. The army he's wearing is the same one with that Vex set with the red eye we've seen all over the promotional material, but the helmet is actually exotic. They also showed off this solar cold heart, which we've seen before. I think everyone already knew it was exotic, but there's no way it would be legendary, to be honest. But it is exotic, and it does have completely different perks to the cold heart, so I'm looking forward to seeing what it does and how it compares. We also got a better look at the Spider grenade launcher from Vice, which is called the Colony, and this is another exotic that shoots normal grenades if you get a direct hit. But if you miss or hit the floor or wall, the grenade is going to turn into a robot spider that chases enemies down and then explodes. So it's sort of the closest thing to Wolfpack rounds in this game. The spider is going to chase down any enemy and finish the job basically. Some pretty weird armor that I don't actually know what it is or if it's exotic. I kind of doubt it. Can be seen here on the Hunter and Warlock, these glowing blue spiky gauntlets. I'm not actually sure where they are from, but I don't think they're exotic because you wouldn't have a matching set across like Warlocks and Hunters. They could be ornaments to make the blue spikes kind of glow, or it could be like a prestige set of raid gear, for example. But you can see the Hunter without the spikes on, so it's definitely a unique armor set. There's also a sneak peek at the new Warlock Trials gear coming with Season 2. So if you look closely, it's got a different helmet and robe. So this is going to be the Warlock ornament set for Season 2 of Trials. And then on top of that, we have the third exotic emote being the Sweeper Bot one. So you have this one, the mic drop, which is shown on stream, and the selfie one, which is seen in the DLC gameplay. So those are 3 exotic emotes. So next up, we've heard about all the things coming in the economy side of the December updates, but those are not the same as the sandbox patch, which are also coming with the DLC and updates as well. So that's a big part of the December updates yet to be mentioned by Bungie, and we're gonna have to wait until Tuesday for the patch notes. These are going to include buffs, nerfs, and general adjustments to all areas of Destiny, so subclasses, weapons, exotics, things like that. So for example, as I pointed out in a previous video, the Gunslinger Hunter is getting a buff in that the 6-shooter option has more time now. So that's just one example of how this update is going to change things, and hopefully there are more buffs than nerfs, so I want to see more stuff, just like the Hunter Gunslinger getting a buff. Now, something else Bungie also mentioned is when the Dawning event goes live roughly. So they said previously that it would be around the same time as the DLC, but I guess they didn't mean the exact same date. The Dawning is going to go live in mid-December. So this big December update is actually split across 2 different dates, as we know, the 5th and the 12th of December. so it's safe to assume the Dawning is also going to go live on the 12/2 lineup with that second update. I actually much prefer it being spread out like this because you actually have a week to play the DLC, see some changes, and then a week later, more updates in the Dawning, which is going to have its own content and its own gear to earn. So I much prefer it being a bit more spread out over December. Now, in terms of beyond that, we know the next big thing is going to be the January update. This is going to include more additions to the Masterwork system, making it deeper and better, bring it to other gear, I'm assuming armor, and also showing the kill counter when someone kills you in Crucible. Something else also in this January update is going to be better incentives for completing prestige activities. So this makes sense because around the same time as when the prestige version of the Eater of Worlds raid layer is going to launch. So I hope that means some good reasons to do that higher difficulty besides just glowy stuff and an ornament. Now, I also wanted to mention something that I didn't talk about in my initial video on the update, and that is what Luke Smith and Christopher Barrett said in the blog post, which is hopefully good news. Obviously, we don't have exact time frames or details of these things, but if they do follow through, it will definitely address a lot of the concerns. But they mentioned how from here on outwards with Destiny 2, the game is going to be catered towards people who want to keep coming back to the game, people who want replay value, and in their exact words, people who want Destiny to be their hobby. Now again, this is very promising as concepts and just words, but we do need to see, of course, these actions in-game as updates and physical things we can play and see. But I really do hope this new direction is true, because I feel like Destiny 2 was definitely not made to be grindable or very replayable. One of the very first things that I said I was worried about before the game came out would be that they go too far at removing the grind from the game. That's pretty much what happened. Going back to Destiny 1, we did have some kind of simplifying updates, but for the most part, it did become more hardcore of a game to the point where we even got a live update that was purely raid. So that was definitely a very hardcore, appeasing update. So I'm hoping with Destiny 2, they do a similar thing and they eventually get a bit more hardcore and kind of give people the reason to keep playing and basically more depth for the people that want it. This isn't about making the game super grindy and everything take long and punishing people who don't have a ton of time to sink into the game, and hopefully they can please both audiences of whatever time frame you want to put into the game. But according to the leadership at Bungie, the game is going to be from now on updated to specifically apply for people who want to keep playing. So next up, I want to show off a bunch of hidden emblems currently not obtainable inside the game, but I expect some of them are going to appear in the DLC and also as promotions as bonuses. Just last weekend, we saw the Darkest Day emblem finally added into the game as a Black Friday item. There are loads more like this still hidden and unobtainable. So we have Cutting Edge, which looks really cool, probably one of my favorites out the set. There's also Wish Granter, which is interesting because this could be referencing the Ahamkara, whose other name is Wish Dragon, so they actually grant wishes. Maybe this is tied to them. There's also Adventurous Spirit. This, of course, is the adventure logo, so clearly it should drop something to do with adventures, but right now isn't in the game. Nobody has it. The Curse of Osiris is, of course, going to be bringing in the heroic adventures with modifiers, so maybe it's tied to them somehow. There's Silicon Frontier, which looks pretty nice. The Rune of the Adept, which is pretty interesting. This is a Warlock emblem. It doesn't look very finished. It's like 2 RGB colors, so I doubt this is finished. It's probably just left over. There's also Officer's Crest, which is the Titan unfinished emblem, and Aspect of Blood, which is the unfinished Hunter emblem. So I personally doubt any of these 3 emblems are going to make it in because they look very unfinished, but it's pretty funny because they're so basic. Those are still emblems in the game right now. There's also the Consensus. If you follow the lore, you know, this is actually the government of the Lost City. It's basically the Speaker, a bunch of factions, the Vanguard, and they decide on things going on inside the Lost City. So I guess this is their logo, which I've never seen before, which is kind of interesting. There's also KD 5530's Blessing, which is super weird because KD, of course, is the Postmaster robot. So I have no idea how this is supposed to be dropped, but she has an emblem somehow. And there's also Heart of the City, which looks kind of familiar for some reason. I feel like we saw it in Destiny 1, but those are mostly hidden emblems currently unavailable in Destiny. I think most of them will be coming in the DLC, but it's worth being aware that those are some emblems that nobody has right now, but are of course inside the game. So next up, some other things Bungie added to their list of things they're working on for a future update, most of which I would expect in the December patches, but some of them have been issues since launch and some of them are more random small bugs popping up recently. One of the bigger ones finally being acknowledged is the Hunter recovery perk not working on sets of legendary boots. So I remember way back at launch seeing this as a bug. I guess it's pretty buried and kind of forgotten about, but it was only recently acknowledged. I know some people are saying that if you put a recovery mod on those boots, that also doesn't properly give the stats. So the UI seems a bit bugged as well. I know hunters need all the recovery you can get, so that's definitely much needed. There are also some other bugs like Callus sometimes being immune during the damage phase. Some people are still getting black screens loading into the tower. Faction tokens being removed when you start a new character, which Bungie said they aim to fix before the next faction rally event in December, which is good to know. They're even still working on the bugged Cade's treasure chest with their disappearing loot. I think with the more or less removal of the chest farming lockout coming in the update, this should hopefully be fixed, but who knows if it's still going to be an issue. It's been a really long-standing one. But as always, there is a massive list of tiny bugs and weird things that Bungie is aiming to fix. Most of them I would expect inside the December updates. If you enjoyed the video and want to help support the channel, then a like rating down below would also be much appreciated. We're going to have a ton of videos and content going up on this channel when the DLC goes live, so stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already. In the meantime, if you want to watch another Destiny 2 video from me, then you can click the image on screen, and I'll see you guys next one.